celebration of emancipation, it is important to remember that directly after emancipation, Southern states passed what they call codes. Black codes were a series of laws put forth by Southern states to criminalize black people. And among those black codes
were vagrancy laws. And in the vagrancy laws, it was illegal to be black, unemployed, homeless, and poor. And so, it is disgusting that as we move forward into 2025, the Supreme Court 1 year ago from this month said it was legal to arrest people for being poor, unemployed, and homeless. No, it's not right. And it was unconstitutional then, and it is unconstitutional now. And when we say unconstitutional, it means that it violates the due process of law. And the 3 pillars of the due process of law says that number 1, before you can be arrested or taken into custody or caused any harms, number 1, there needs to be proper notification. Is that what is happening during the sweeps and the encampments? It says that there needs to be ample opportunity to justify your position. Is that what's happening? No. And last but never the least, it says that when you are unbiased against any specific group and that bias has caused unjust harm, then you are being unconstitutional. So it is amazing that we stand here today fighting against something that was fought against back in the 1800s. I guess this is what that administration means when they say make America great again. What a shitty slogan. So we adapt the counter statement of Kamala Harris that says we won't go back. Repeat that after me. We won't go back. So I'm going to hand it over to the MCs. And as I do, we want housing, not housing, not
What do you want?
Housing, not handcuffs. Now.
What do you want?
Housing, not handcuffs.
When do you want it?
Now. Thank you, Oscar. The first person I'm going to introduce today is someone with lived experience of houselessness and addiction, and a friend of mine. Very proud to call him a friend. He's not only someone who has lived experience on his own, but has outreach experience in this community and has changed the lives for countless people in Rochester, New York. With no further ado, Stephen Rosa.
Thank you. I'm going to set this up over here if I can. Because if somebody could help me, I don't know, maybe. No, I'm good. Oh, it's falling down. There we go. Is that good? All right. Great. Perfect. Can you guys hear me? All right. So my name is Stephen Rosa. Good afternoon. Today I want to talk about a critical issue often hidden from public view or lied about by the mayor. Homeless encampment sweeps. These are not merely cleanups or relocations, like I like to say. They are forceful displacements where the city dismantles a makeshift home of unhoused individuals, often with little warning. I witnessed one at Marshall Street under the Clinton Avenue overpass less than 2 minutes from here on December 20th. The harm caused by these sweeps is profound and multifaceted. I imagine having what little you have that you own your tent, your sleeping bag, your medication, or your identification confiscated or even destroyed because you happen not to be there when they come. This isn't just an inconvenience. It's a catastrophic loss that strips individuals of their few possessions and vital documents that sometimes are crucial to escape homelessness. Beyond material loss, the psychological impact on these people is devastating. Sweeps create immense trauma, anxiety, and fear. The constant threat of displacements means never knowing when the authorities are going to come and tell you you have to leave, and makes very services that are designed to help them, as outreach workers like myself often lose contact with people in those sweeps. These actions criminalize homelessness itself. Instead of addressing the root causes, sweeps push people into less visible, more isolated, and often more dangerous areas, increasing their vulnerability to violence and overdose. Excuse me. This is real. The overdoses are real. Research consistently shows that sweeps do not reduce homelessness. They simply move the problem elsewhere, making it harder to provide support and ultimately prolonging a person's experience of homelessness. This city spends millions on these ineffective, inhumane operations, money that could be invested in real solutions like affordable housing, mental health services, and supportive programs. It's time we recognize that dumpsters and bulldozers will never solve homelessness. Compassion, stable housing, low barrier shelters, and accessible services are the only path forward. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today and speak to you about these things. Thank you.
The next speaker we will have is Kevin Stewart, City Council.
Can everybody hear me okay? So I have a bad habit of sharing too many numbers, and so I'm going to start with a story. And I first encountered sweeps when I was working on the board of directors for 490 Farmers. 490 Farmers is about a half-acre community garden that is started on land that was already occupied by a community that had been there for decades, called the Weeds. And these folks were unhoused, but they had homes. They had neighbors. They had a community. And as 490 Farmers moved into the area, we joined that community that was already in existence, building relationships, sharing resources. A number of the folks who lived in the Weeds were ambassadors, helping us navigate issues that we had when we were starting our farm. And we brought them food. We brought them resources and Narcaned people on a regular basis who were struggling with addiction on that space. As we continued to build community, relationships improved. People became safer, felt more comfortable living alongside each other. And then a couple years ago, the city of Rochester implemented a program called Keep the Change, Be the Change. And what this program said is, don't give your money to unhoused folks. give it to a select number of nonprofits that the city has chosen to partner with, because you don't think that you can trust those people with resources. 490 Farmers saw the active harm that this would do to our community members, our friends, our neighbors, the people that we had lived and grown alongside for years. And so we fought back. We stood up. We spoke out. 490 Farmers had existed for a number of years. We had never received an audit by the State Department of Transportation. All of a sudden, about 5 days after we spoke out about Keep the Change, Be the Change, we got our first audit, coincidentally. As we'd been meeting with the state, city actors were at the table every time. And at one point, the then Corporation Counsel, the city's attorney who's no longer with the city, said, quote, "The real problem is you're just providing too many resources to the homeless people." Shame. In order to keep our land and continue growing food for the community that we were living alongside, they A, destroyed about 20 raised beds. They forced us to remove a food box that had been there for years, that was one of the most active food stands in the city, taking food off of the plates and out of the mouths of our neighbors. Shame. And then they swept the encampment. They destroyed the weeds. They forced the folks off the land that had been living and existing there for decades. And about 6 months after that, one of the leaders of that community, someone who had lived in the weeds for a number of years, a friend of mine, a board member on 490 Farmers, overdosed. And his community was not there to save him, because the city of Rochester collaborated with the Department of Transportation and destroyed that community. Shame. Death on their heads. Years have gone by. We're rebuilding 490 Farmers and trying to rebuild community. But when I look at our city's budget and I hear the things that are talked about by our elected officials, I see the same harm recycling through. We're calling this action Housing Not Handcuffs. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we're spending our city's money and our resources. This year's budget is $680 million. We are spending less than $1 million on housing.
All right.
A 91% reduction from last year. 91% reduction in a housing crisis, when homelessness has doubled in the last few years. Some of the folks I'm running against have said that this is not a reduction. The paper says it is. And it is fair, it's true that we are losing ARPA dollars. ARPA dollars from the American Rescue Plan are going away. But again, I want to say $680 million. And when we look at where that money is going, there's a line in RPD's budget called Community Relations. Shame. In the last 3 years, that budget line has tripled, and it is increasing again this year. This year, it will be $12 million just for community relations, and we are spending less than $1 million on housing. This community needs housing, not handcuffs. If we cannot afford food, water, and shelter for everybody in our community, I don't know what it is all for. We deserve better than destroying communities. We need to support the folks that are serving on the ground, and we need to support those that are building communities across this city. Thank you all for being here.
The next person I'm going to introduce is part of Recovery Always, a harm reduction organization that provides services to unhoused people in our community. She's the executive director of that organization, which just became a Tier 2 Clean Syringe program, which is really, really good news for our community. Stephanie Forrester.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to stand here. I'm super short. Good afternoon, everyone. As you all know, we're gathered here today because it's been 1 year since the Supreme Court's decision in City of Grants Pass versus Johnson. This decision gave jurisdictions across the country the legal authority to fine or arrest people for camping in public, even if there's no available shelter beds. And we all know there are no available shelter beds. Here in Rochester, both the city and Monroe County have weaponized this ruling against some of the most vulnerable members of our community. Let's talk about what that has meant for us. In 2014, Rochester saw a devastating increase in homelessness. The number of unhoused individuals in our city rose to 1,056, up from 803 just the year before that. That's a 41% increase since 2022. And this isn't just individuals. This includes children and families. Homeless children increased by 51%. Homeless families increased by 70%. Behind those numbers are real people, families, neighbors, and friends. Why is this happening? Housing costs are rising. Between 2019 and 2024, fair market rent for a one-bedroom apartment jumped by 38%. Eviction proceedings are back to pre-pandemic levels. Monroe County is seeing a high number of eviction filings. And our social safety nets, those fragile systems that people used to rely on, are strained and breaking. And then there's the biggest issue of all. We don't have enough affordable housing. It's not that people don't want shelter. It's that it doesn't exist. Last week, we heard Mayor Malik Evans say that Rochester doesn't conduct sweeps of encampment. I don't know about y'all, but that felt like a slap in the face to those of us who have lost everything during those sweeps and watched our friends lose everything. To those of us who have watched our friends die as a direct result of those sweeps. I don't want somebody representing me or my community who's willing to boldly lie to my face, my friends, my community in such a disrespectful, disgusting manner. But today is not just about statistics or politicians. It's about us, about who we choose to be as a community. I want to close with a story that reminds me exactly why we're here today. A pastor once started at a new church. On his first day, he dressed in raggedy clothes, the kind you might associate with someone experiencing homelessness. He sat outside the church, asking for change, asking for food, even asking for just water. People ignored him, crossed the street to avoid him, wouldn't look him in the eye. When he came into the sanctuary, ushers asked him to sit in the back of the church. The congregation stared, judged, and whispered. Finally, the elders came forward to introduce their new pastor, and the man in ragged clothes stood up. The entire church fell silent. He walked to the front and took the microphone. He read these words. "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." And then he said, "Today I see a gathering of people, not a church. The world has enough people, but not enough disciples. When will you decide to become disciples?" The question I'm asking us today is not just about people who believe in a higher power. but as neighbors, as human beings. When will we decide to lead with love? Let's be an example and choose to lead with love. Thank you.
Housing not handcuffs. 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 One more time, really loud, so Mayor Abisari can hear us. Housing not handcuffs. Housing not handcuffs. That's the noise I'm talking about.
Oscar. Our next speaker will be Kelly, City Council candidate.
Sorry. Sorry, just adjusting this. Where's that? No, that's the angle. Can you just give us a little nudge? I'm short. Yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Cheadle. A budget is more than just numbers on the page. It is a moral document. It also shows us who our leaders are listening to and who they are not. And it's clear right now, this administration is not listening to us. Now, maybe it's hard to hear us up there in the ivory tower, where meetings are held about us and not with us. But the people have been loud and clear. And the city's own community input survey spelled it out. Housing is the #1 issue for our residents. Across our community, people are struggling. In just 5 years, the cost of housing has skyrocketed. In 2020, the fair market value for a 1-bedroom apartment was $775. Today, it's over $1,400 for a 1-bedroom. That's nearly double. Has your income doubled? No. I didn't think so. And still, despite the resounding need, despite the staggering increases in homelessness, the urgency of this crisis is not reflected in our budget. Instead of building supports, our mayor, Mayor Evans, is cutting supports. Crisis service as our libraries, gone. Rental assistance, underfunded. Affordable housing, we still don't have enough. And now with looming cuts to basic supports from the federal government and for-profit prisons just waiting there in the distance, licking their chops, waiting to cash in on their investments, where is the urgency? Where is our investment? This setup is not sustainable. It is a recipe for collapse. We don't need more criminalization. We need compassion. We need resources. And we need housing, not handcuffs. Thank you.
Housing, not handcuffs. Housing, not handcuffs. Now. The next person I'm going to introduce, I'm very proud to call a friend. She is someone with lived experience of houselessness, and I love her for her courage. I love her for her humor and for her resilience. Candy Perez.
Hey, where's my other minion? Get over here. Both of them. All right. The question is. All right. I actually benefited from one of the low barrier shelters. I was in a couple of shelter, actually, damn near all the shelters here in Rochester, and none of them really helped. I stayed at Barberry for 2 months, and they helped me get the placement that I am right now. And I feel like we should have more low barrier shelters to help out. Thank you.
Housing is a human right. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right.
Our next speaker is Kiki Smith.
Yeah, Kiki.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kiara Smith. Friends and family affectionately call me Kiki. I wrote my points down, so I didn't forget. So please forgive me while I read. I proudly represent the 14621 community, the community in which I was born and raised and continue to live. A neighborhood that raised me, taught me resilience, and showed me what it means to care for each other when systems fall short. I want to be real with y'all. I haven't always understood or even supported encampments. I used to ask, why are people setting up tents here? I didn't fully grasp the layers of trauma, disinvestment, and policy failure that led people to live without shelter. But I've learned, I've listened, and I've witnessed up close what happens when people are left with no options. In 14621, I've watched families crowd into overcrowded apartments because it's all they can afford. I've met mothers who sleep in cars while their kids stay with relatives. I've sat on the porch with neighbors who wonder if this month will be the month that puts them on the street. These aren't stories from the news. These are the realities of the people I love. That's why I support the Housing Not Handcuffs campaign, because it's not enough to just care. We need action. We must stop the sweeps and ineffective relocations, invest in real solutions, not just short-term fixes, but resources that truly meet people's needs, protect people's dignity by creating inclusive policies that don't punish poverty, build sustainable housing that centers those most impacted, and most importantly, listen to those living it. Engage houseless folks in shaping the very systems that are supposed to support them. I use my voice for the people who are out here every day just trying to live, because people aren't homeless by choice. They're homeless because systems have failed. We need housing, not handcuffs, compassion, not criminalization, and leadership that isn't afraid to learn and grow. I'm committed to being that. Let's build a future rooted in care, not punishment, a future where everyone has a place to call home. Thank you so much, everyone.
Housing, not handcuffs.
When do you want it? Now. When do you want it? Now. If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
If we don't get it,
Shut it down. Our next speaker is a friend, compadre, fellow outreach worker, and someone with lived experience, Mickey DePerna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mickey DePerna. I'm a member of Rochester Grants Pass Resistance. Kelly said something about urgency, and it really struck me because to me, and to anybody who's ever been through housing instability or homelessness, they understand the urgency. I have to be so clear. Sweeps kill people. They've killed people in our community. They have killed our friends. This looks like a camping tent, but it's somebody's home. It's been a long week, so excuse me if I get emotional. But I'm going to talk about my mom for a second. My mom spent years in a not good relationship and had many kids while in that relationship. And she was forced to stay in that relationship because it's impossible to get housing as a single woman who's never owned an apartment on her own. She stayed. She was abused physically, sexually, psychologically. It took years for her to get her own place. And to this day, well into her 40s, she is not housing stable. She's constantly renting from slum wards because that's what she can afford, while still providing for her 12 children. When my mom started to use drugs and I found out, she told me it was because she needed to stay awake so that she could hold down both of her jobs. She told me that she didn't want to go to the shelter because they treated her like dirt and she'd rather sleep in her car. Her closest friends in the world were her dogs. You can't bring your dogs to the shelter. So she had to give away her best friend because she couldn't afford to keep him. And then a year later, after she got housed, her other dog died. I grew up in that house, and when my parents finally divorced, I was in college in a relationship I was trapped in because of housing. Because when you grow up in a house like that, that's all you know. And now I'm housing unstable. My siblings are. None of us keep an apartment for very long. Buying a house, what is that? That's not something I can ever do. When Mayor Malik said that he doesn't do sweeps, it's not just untrue. It actively harms everybody in the community. Because when we say this harms families, there are over 1,000 kids in RCSD who are homeless. I work with these kids every week. Sometimes this is all they have. And maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, but it was important to me to talk about why this is urgent, because it's something we should have been fighting for, and people have been fighting for since before I was born, since before any of us were born. But does anybody know when homelessness actually started, was actually a thing? It wasn't around forever. It's the late 1800s. It's a policy choice. Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps. Stop the sweeps. I want housing for my neighbors, for myself, for my family. We don't need any more handcuffs. Thank you.
Housing not handcuffs! Too low. I know you're tired and late on a Friday night. Wake up. 2017, we'd had an encampment here. Then luckily weren't swept it. So we're doing it really loud. Because you got people out here, nothing against our favorite people that we love. But people are asking us to vote for them this year, right? Send a clear-ass message of what you want now. What do you want? Housing not handcuffs. What do you want? Housing not handcuffs. When do you want it? Now. When do you want it? Now. If you don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. That's how you wake up.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mary Lupien, City Council member and a mayor of Kennedy.
It's been really inspiring listening to everyone speaking, sharing their lived experience and what we could be doing instead of sweeping homeless encampments. 2 weeks ago, I asked Mayor Evans if he would commit to ending homeless sweeps. And as you've heard, he responded with, "We don't do sweeps." But we know that that is a bold-faced lie. He has swept homeless encampment after homeless encampment, and you've heard of many of them. But one of them you may not have heard of. On the corner of Main and University, there's a very small homeless encampment. There's still one tent that remains, because that woman is resilient, and she keeps coming back. But there was a woman who was sitting outside of what I thought was her tent, and I stopped by just to chat and see if she needed anything. Turns out the tent was some of her neighbors. She was sleeping under the stars. And I just happened to have been coming back from a camping trip, and I had a tent in my car. So I went and got the tent, and we sent the tent up. And she was so excited to have a place out of the elements, and it was close to Halloween, and she had some Halloween decorations on her suitcase, which is the only thing she owned. I said goodbye, and 3 days later, I came back. They took her tent away, and she was sleeping on the ground again. Taking people's tents away does not solve homelessness. I think it was Amy D'Amico said it makes them more homeless than they already are. And all of us probably know about the sweep 5 days before Christmas. On the premise of trying to protect them from the harsh weather, to get them into cold blue shelter, they took people's tents away who did not accept shelter, because you've already heard of the many barriers to shelter. Did they break down the barriers to shelter? No. No. No one accepted shelter and slept in the subway that night on the coldest night of the year. Dangerous policies. Homelessness is a policy choice. You ask people with lived experience, you ask outreach workers, they know how to solve homelessness. How do we solve homelessness? We give people housing. Housing first is, they say that we're a housing first community. We are not. There are many communities that are, and it is an effective policy. Instead of trying to make people jump through hoops to get into shelter, no, you got to stop using first. No, you got to give up your pets. You got to put your belongings in storage. They house people first and then figure out how to problem solve the rest of their issues, because housing is the stability which we build our lives on. And you heard Mickey talk about the children. I also teach in the city schools, and I see how housing instability affects our kids. A couple of years ago, I was teaching reading to some first graders, and one of them was on the verge. He was putting the syllables together. He was getting it. And then his mother got locked out of their apartment illegally, and they moved into a shelter. And the school system takes 2 weeks to catch up with an address change. So that boy was out of school for 2 weeks. And when he came back, he had lost his progress. And reading, if you are not at grade level in third grade, all of the things go off the rails. Higher rates of mental health, higher rates of homelessness, higher rates of drug use, higher rates of incarceration. Housing instability kills. Housing instability derails people's lives and takes away their future. The single most important thing that we could be doing is providing our community housing. At least twice a week. I live over in Parcells Avenue. Somebody who knows that I'm involved with the government comes over and asks me, look, I'm homeless. I'm sleeping on somebody's couch. We take care of our own in the Beechwood area. So, if somebody gets pushed out of their apartment, they usually end up with a neighbor. But this woman has 3 kids. It's not ideal. She came crying. Can you please help me with some place to go? And years ago, I'd be able to help connect her. But now I feel powerless because I don't have any options. There's nothing available. When Councilmember Martin and Smith and I held a housing hearing, which none of our other colleagues attended, the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative came and told us that there were 77 units of housing affordable to us available in the city of Rochester. We don't have enough shelter. We don't have enough housing. But the mayor's flagship program is building $500,000 that are not set aside for city residents. So by the block is single family homes. And what it's really doing is, and all of the affordable housing that we're building is affordable. Right. After the debate, after we talked about cheaper ways to build like modular housing, the mayor released an RFP for modular housing for 9 units, affordable to people who make $66,000 to $91,000 a year. All of this affordable housing that he's claiming is not for our people. It's to subsidize people from the suburbs to come back into the city. And this is something that some people have been reporting on, but maybe isn't widely known. What happened in the 60s, where whites fled for the suburbs. And finally, people of color were able to buy in these neighborhoods, but they bought at the top of the market. And those realtors knew that the property values were going to plummet. And people came upside down in their mortgages. And neighborhoods were disinvested. It's reversed. The city is where people are coming. And our people are getting pushed out to the suburbs where there is a lack of resources. It's happening all over again, just like the inner loop. In the name of equity, we are filling in the inner loop for development, not for us. And it's going to do the exact same thing it did back then. It is going to displace and disrupt connected neighborhoods. And it needs to stop. And you've heard about the budget. The budget does not change anything this year. It decreases investments in our people, it decreases investments in housing, in violence prevention, in public safety that isn't the police. And the police have increased their budget to $115 million. But that shields the true cost of policing because it doesn't include benefits, it doesn't include pension, and it doesn't include the overtime that they overspend their budget every year. We give the police whatever they want. And the liability because we get sued all the time. So we spend probably half of our city budget on enforcement and punishment that happens after crime has happened. But we know that when we invest in people, when we invest in getting them housing, when we invest in taking care of their needs, making sure that they have food on the table, that they don't have to decide between rent and medication or food or buying their kids winter coats, crime goes down. So we invest in prevention, we invest in our people, we invest in housing, like tenant opportunity to purchase, like housing access vouchers, like building housing that's affordable to us, that investing in our current housing stock and rehabbing, holding slumlords accountable, all the things that we are not doing. Because when the mayor builds a house for $500,000, or when he asks the state for $33 million to build 75 houses, all of that money goes to developers, to construction companies, to architects that contribute to campaigns. There are people that are benefiting from how things are. Mayor Evans is never going to change. Many of our council members will not change. We need to change the people. June 24th. We have a choice. So let's choose different.
Housing not handcuffs. Now. Shut it down. Shut it down. Before I invite up our last speaker, I just want to let everybody know that we do have a petition that you can sign if you haven't already. If you have petitions, can you just raise them up in the sky for a second? Over here, and right back here. You can also find it online at bit.ly/housing not handcuffs petition, capitalizing the first letter of the word. Bitly's annoying. Over on this table is some of our lit. Please grab some. I also brought some red cards because fuck ICE. Know your rights. And now I'm really honored to bring up our final speaker. She has done so much in this community that I can only hope to aspire to be a little bit like her. Sister Rita.
So I am now with La Madonna de la Strada. This is a new ministry with Sister Grace. Sister Grace, as everyone knows, is not doing well. She's in her last days. But before I left, she said, I wish I was going with you. And I said, I know. I wish you were with me too. But she is with us. She is with us. And she said, tell them all hello and give my love to everyone there. So, to provide shelter and care for our homeless, we need a shelter that is open 24 hours a day to let people in who need to get in and simply provide care. That's number one. Let them know someone cares and do what you can do to help them. That's all it takes. Open the doors, give them a space to be. The sweeping of encampments is totally wrong, It should never happen unless they have a place for them to be who they are. But of course we know that is not happening. And it is wrong. All I can think of are the words from Matthew 25, what you did to the least of my brothers and sisters, you have done to me. And we have to think about that all the time with our people who are suffering. And I'm calling on the city and I'm calling on the county to do all they can do to place every single person that comes to their door asking for help. There should be no words such as sanction or we can't help you. That should not ever, ever come out of the mouths of people at DSS, ever. Because everyone deserves a place to be. And our county and our city should be making sure that it happens. So I just ask for your prayers that we can get our ministry up and going like we want it to be so that we can open our doors and let the people in, because that's what we want to do. And we've got our hearts and minds set on it. And we're going to do it with the inspiration of Sister Grace to keep us all going, inspired and willing to do the work that God has for his people to do, has called us to do. Thank you.
Housing not handcuffs. 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 Mayor Evans, here to people.
So I'm going to quickly close us out. And I hope that we truly heard Mary Lupien. Because the message that Mary Lupien just gave us is if you change the people and the processes, then you change the policy and the product. And I stand here as an elected official promising you that elected officials get a paycheck and they are not going to do things based on the goodness of their heart. They do things and make decisions based on power and influence. I don't know about you, but I don't have any money
to have that type of influence. But what I do have and what is surrounding us today is the power of our people. And that means that when we show up in spaces to talk about it, as we disperse, it is important that we be about it because the lives of our homeless community depend on it. I haven't done the math, but if each of us in this space took a paper copy of the petition with us, by the end of this month, the toxic anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision to criminalize homelessness, if we committed to be about it, by the end of this month, we could have at the 100 more petition signatures. Yes. And so as we disperse today, I ask that you repeat after me. I commit. I commit to being a voice to end homelessness in this city of Rochester. I will not only sign the petition, I will take it to my family. I will take it to my family. I will take it to my friends. I will take it to my friends. I will take it to the damn polls. I will take it to the damn polls. And we will have change in Rochester. And we will have change in Rochester. It is on us. Let's go forth in power and in unity and in solidarity for our homeless community.